Welcome back, everybody. In this lesson, we will learn how to write into a text file. We'll also learn about other file opening modes like writing, appending, etc. And also, we'll also learn about two very important file operation, tell and seek. And we're going to end by practicing with learning how to write into a comma separated value file, CSV file. Let's start. So we learn about reading from a text file. Okay, so it's a way of input. So how do we write into a text file? It's a way of output. Okay, so we're gonna basically learn open the file with writing mode. We use W for that. Okay, so this is basically the file will be open for new file will be open for writing. Okay, so basically then we can use the write method. Okay, so once we open the file for writing, then we can use the write method. Okay, all right, so continuing on. Okay, so write returns number of characters written into the file. Okay, so to open the file, we first open it with write mode, and then we have the file object, then dot write, and then we basically pass the text to be written into write method. Okay, so here's an example. Okay, so we have a file named grocery list. We're gonna create a list of grocery items. So we open the file, and then we write the first item. Okay, so let's test these. So as usually, I pre-formatted my PyCharm Python file. Okay, so we're gonna write. So we're gonna open the file, the grocery list, not text for writing. Okay, and then basically I'm going to call the write method. So at the same time, since write method returns number of characters written, I'm going to verify that as well. So l file dot write. Okay, so let's write that's into the list bananas. Bananas. Okay, all right. So check this out. So we can actually uh, we have to close the file. Okay, once we open, once we are done. So let's just test this one out. Okay, so number of characters written is 7, and it's 7, right? So there are 7 characters. So let's verify the file got written. Okay, so it's grocery list. Okay, and we have bananas. Okay, so I'm gonna close this. Okay, so I'm going to block this because in the next slide I need to keep the file open. Okay, all right, so I'm going to rerun. Okay, all right, so let's go back to our lesson. All right, okay, so we go over here. Okay, we can also use with statement. Okay, so going forward, try to use with statement whenever you have to open a file. Okay, so with open the file for writing and give the file object name as this, and then inside the with statement do anything that you have to do with the file. Okay, all right, so for example with our grocery list. Okay, so we have this with statement. All right, so let's move on. I'm going to test this in the next slide. Okay, all right, so writing happened at the end of the file. Okay, so no matter where you are at the file currently, writing is going to happen at the end of the file, and we'll prove this later. Okay, so and basically with the write operation place file pointer at the end of the file. So once you write something, then the pointer is now sitting at the end of that line. Okay, so if you want to create a new line, then you have to explicitly add this line break, okay, the new line character. Okay, otherwise, as long as you write things, all the things going to be piled up into a single line. Okay, so right, so to break that, add a new line where you want to add a new line character where you want to add a new line. Okay, all right, so for example, so we have this. All right, so let's check this out. So I'm going to go into this one. So I'm going to unblock this. All right. Okay. So we're going to use, we're going to open the file. Use. Okay. All right. So and let's check out that. So let's next new file is glossary list 2. Just it has also banana. So I didn't want to override the previous file. Okay. So now I'm going to basically uh, block this one. Okay, so I'm going to keep the file open. Okay, and then let's write this unblock slide 4. Okay, so we're going to test the things in the slide 4. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is basically I'm going to write apples also. So I didn't close the file right here. Okay, so I blocked it. So I'm going to use the same file and I'm going to write apples. Okay, so my next item in the list. Okay, so did that. So let me open the grocery list. Now you can see that apples come after bananas. So this is like this nonsense, right? This is gibberish. So this needs to go like this. Okay, so how do we do that? So that's the answer coming from the next. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to now close this one and open the file again. Okay, so right here. Okay, all right. So now I close the file. I'm going to reopen the file. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the new line and you will see that bananas and apples come one after the other. Okay, so let's try this one. Okay, reopen it. So apples comes after bananas. Okay, so we have to explicitly add the new line character where you want to end the line. So it's something that depend on the user's need. So that's why they don't automatically add a new line. Okay, so that's the designer's thought. Okay, all right. So let's continue. Okay, so all right, next slide. Okay, all right. So read lines. We know that read lines read a bunch of lines as a list. So the question is, can we also write a list of lines into a file, right? So we can do that as well. We use the write lines method. Okay, so this has to be a list of lines. That means it should be a list of strings. Okay, all right. So okay, so but you have to still make sure to put new line character and at the end of each item in your list. Otherwise, everything gonna get written one after the other. Okay, in a single line. Okay. All right. So here's an example. Okay. So instead of writing separately oranges and mangoes, so I'm gonna write this list uh, string like list of strings into a file into the file. Okay, so let's try that out. Okay, so first let's slide number 5. So I'm going to reopen this, unblock this. Okay, so first, so this is the list of things. Okay, and so let's check this out. Okay, so let me make sure I am still within the with statement previously. Yeah, see, I didn't close the file, so I'm inside that with still. Okay, all right. So let's go back to grocery list. Now we have oranges and mangoes. Okay. Now what will happen if you remove this new line? Okay. So let me just remove this and just rerun. Okay. And you'll see that mangoes goes into the same line. Okay. So that means you have to have, even if it's a list of lines, you have to have that new line character at the end of each item. See, this one item in the list. So each item you have to have that new line character, and they have to be strings as well. So we're going to verify it now. Okay, so I'm going to uncomment this, and you'll see that this will be an error because I have an integer over here which is not a string. Okay, so basically this will be an error. So let's check on that. Okay, see that type it's a type error. Excuse me. Right argument must be a string, not int. Okay, so let's copy that and then paste over here. All right, so I'm going to uncomment that. So you have to uncomment and comment that. You have to uncomment and run it. Okay, all right, so let's go back. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so we just learned that, okay, W mode opens a new file for writing. So, but we also saw that it overrides the file extension. That's unsafe operation, right? So you may basically destroy your data because once you open a file with W mode, it's gonna override the existing one. So you will lose data. Okay. So basically, to avoid that, you can use the mode X. So what it does is basically this is called exclusive writing. So that means basically if the file is already there, it gives you an error. Otherwise, it'll create a new file. Okay. So if the file is existing, basically X mode gives you an error and do nothing. And then if there's no file, then it's actually create a file for writing. Okay. So we can also use A mode, so to append. Okay, so it's append A. So we can actually append to the end of existing file. Okay, you can also use A plus. So in this case, you can not only append, you can also read from an existing file. Okay, I will test on this later. Okay, so if you write like this, and now the mode is A plus. So this will be open for both appending and reading. Okay, so let's check on this. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to open this. Okay, all right. Okay, so okay, so we're gonna basically um, I'm gonna uncomment this. Okay, so you'll see that. So when I do this, okay, so notice I have the W flag. Okay, so I'm going to add cone, right? So let's try that. Okay, so it ran. So now I only have cone. Then all the thing that I have written earlier is gone because the file is reopened. Like basically, it it got overwritten. Okay, so basically should not, you should avoid that, right? So I'm gonna block this, and I'm going to uncomment this and on below. Okay. So okay. So one more time. Okay. Right. So now what we are going to do is I'm gonna open it with X. Okay. So let's try that. So now I blocked this one. Okay. So if I try to do this, now I should see an error. Okay. So it's saying that file exists error. Okay. So I tried X. Okay. Now if we open it, now everything is there. Okay. So it didn't override because, well, file was existing, and now I'm trying to open it for newly open it for writing. So it say no, its file exists. So it's a good safe way to do that. Okay. So this will return this. Okay, and then you have to uncomment this and run it. Okay, because it gives you an error. All right. So all right. So let's try appending. Okay, so we have now the file open. So we're gonna open it. Sorry, we're gonna open it for appending. So let's check on that. Okay. So let's say, all right. So I'm gonna run it. Okay. So it's ran. Okay. So check on that. So cone is there at the end. So I appended cone at the end. Okay. So what if I want to append and read both? So basically for that, I'm going to um, okay, I'm gonna reopen the file for appending. So here I'm opening for appending. Okay. Once I'm now out with this with statement, basically file is now closed. So I'm going to reopen the file. Okay. For appending and reading both. Okay. All right. So let's try that out. Okay. So again, so I'll see carrots at the end. Okay. All right. All right. So it's A plus appending and reading. Okay. So let's go back. So this is slide 8. Did we finish slide 8? Okay. Sorry, it was slide 6. Yeah. Just verifying. Yeah. All right. So let's go back. Okay. So we learn about appending, writing, and next mode. Okay. So default mode is read. So basically, if you omit the mode, the file will be open for reading. So you can, if you omit, when you open the file, if you omit the flag or the mode letter, then file will be open for reading. So, and here are the rest. Okay. So we already learned R, and then W open. R is open for reading. W writing, opening a new file for writing. And X mode, basically if the file is existing, it it would not open a new file, otherwise open a new file. A is for appending, sorry, and B is for binary mode, which we gonna learn in our lesson 3, next lesson. T is again next mode, similar to um, default value. Okay. All right. And then plus is basically we can put plus, and then it's open for updating, reading and writing. Okay. So for example, after A you can put plus, after R you can put plus as well. Okay. All right. So let's move on. All right. So we already sort of saw that writing happen at the very end of the file. Okay. So we'll verify anyway. Okay. So what if we want to read from the beginning now? So we know that there's a mode for reading and writing both, A plus. But since when we write, the file pointer is sitting at now at the end, so if we try to read, then there's nothing to read. So what if we want to read from the beginning? Okay, so there has to be a way to do that. Okay, so that means we need to reposition the file pointer to the beginning. Okay, all right. So there are two file methods available for this. One is tell and then one is seek. So we're going to learn about these two now. Okay. So tell simply returns the current position of the file, and seek, basically we can use the seek to change that position. Okay. So sort of we use tell to get this current state, current position, current state of the current position, right? Position of the file, and we use seek to modify it. Okay. All right. So tell returns current position as an integer. Okay. All right. So in binary mode, okay, and we'll learn that further in our next lesson. Okay. Number of bytes from the beginning to the current position is returned. Okay. In binary mode, the B mode, the number of bytes from the beginning to the current position. Okay. Return. In text mode, well, it's you will see that it's number of characters uh, from beginning to the current, but Python documentation specifically says it is an opaque number. That means we should not rely too much on that. There are the reasons are debated. Some say there's an inconsistency in format between Windows and Unix operating system, so that gives inconsistent results. That's the maybe the reason. Okay. All right. So basically, we can use tells returning value, and we can pass it to seek as the offset value. That's one usage of tell. Okay. So all right. Seek basically can relocate the position to the place where you want. Okay. All right. So the syntax is basically file object name and the seek method, and there are two parameters, offset and whence. Okay. So the default value for both is actually 0. Okay. So whence determines the reference point basically. Okay. So from which basically we are to. Okay. So there are three parameters to whence. Okay. 0 means the beginning of the file, which is the default value. Okay. So if you omit that, it will go to that value. Okay. Default value. 1 means the current position. Okay. So okay. So 1 means current position. 2 means the end. Okay. So end of the file. Okay. All right. So we calculate the offset by adding, right? So we calculate the final position by adding offset to whence. Okay. So right. So whence value of 0 and 2 and offset value of 0, or the return value of tell. So those are the only things that we can use with text mode. Okay. So it's same because again that the opaque thing in play here. Okay. So again, whence values of 0, which is basically the beginning or the end, and offset values of 0 or the thing returned by tell. Okay. Only be used with text mode. Okay. All right. So let's go back and then test on this. Okay. All right. So we go over here. Okay. All right. So we tested those and then 9. So let me uncomment that. So we're gonna check on the file position. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to basically, so I have this open grocery list file. Okay. And basically, well, let me just, that's just fine. Okay. So we'll write, yeah, we'll write corn and then carrot again. That's okay. Okay. All right. So, okay. So now I'm going to use the tell to get the current position. Okay. So let's run it. Okay. So the current position is 50. Okay. And if you count, so let's go to this one. All right. So we have, yeah. So I think we didn't overwrite. Okay. So if you count all the characters up to this point, you will count actually 50. Okay. Kind of right. So I have 5 over here, 6 over here, and then 6 again here, 7, 6, 7, 7. Yeah, it's close. Yeah, yeah, it's 50. You will count 50. Okay. All right. So it's number of characters. Oops, sorry. Right. So go back. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to unblock the rest, and so let's unblock up to this. Okay. All right. All right. So basically now I'm going to seek to the beginning of the file, and I'm going to use the tell again to get some this return 50, right? So I'm now using seek command with 0. I apologize. Earlier I said both offset and 0 has default value of 0. No, it's just only the whence value has the default 0. Okay, so we have to have a parameter over here. Okay, so now I'm basically saying, okay, go to the beginning of the file. Okay, so uh, then I'm going to use to tell to verify that. Okay, so let's run it. Okay, so let's see what is the outcome. See that I move the position to 0 and the current position is 0. So I use tell to get that. Okay. All right. All right. So I'm gonna now test on further things with um, tell and seek. Okay. So what I'm trying to now is I'm going to basically read a line now. Okay. So now I've repositioned, right? So unblock. Okay. Unblock again. Oops. All right. So now I can read a line, right? So imagine I didn't have this. Okay, so I'm gonna run it again. Okay, and there's nothing to read. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, I already seek to that one. So let me block this line. Okay, so I'm gonna run it. Okay, see, there's nothing to read. Okay, so I try to read, but see, after writing all of those writing, the file pointer is sitting at the end of the file. There's nothing to read anymore. So I need to first do this. And if I do this, then I can read a line. Okay, the first line is bananas. And that's what we have as the first line. Okay, so all right, so continuing on. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is basically I'm going to write again. Okay, so all right, so let's write something again. Okay, all right, all right. So now once I read this first line, right, file pointer goes to the beginning of the next line. That's what we learned, right? So now I'm going to write again because again, the file is open for both reading and writing. So let's check on that. So, so if you check the file, so I'm putting the purple corn and it went to the end of the line. So basically, whenever we write, so that's the proof basically, whenever we write file pointer goes to the end of the file, no matter where it was earlier. Okay. All right. So let us test further on this. Okay. So I'm going to reposition the file to the beginning. Okay. All right. So okay. So and then basically I'm going to okay. All right. So I'm gonna yeah, I'm going to reposition to the end again. Okay. It should be the end actually. Okay. And then we can verify using tell. Okay. So where it is now. Okay. So it was here at the beginning. Okay. And then reposition to the end. Okay. And then we're going to use tell. Okay. To verify that. Okay. All right. So it was 0. Okay. Reposition and moving the position to the end. Okay. So that's what I did, 63. So basically seek returns a number of characters, right? That it moved 63. So the current position is 63. So you use tell to verify that. Okay. All right. So let's move on to our lesson. So this basically, so we can learn about this file format. This is really very valuable file format, and then in day-to-day use as well. It's comma separated value file. And basically, if any spreadsheet program can open this file as a spreadsheet, okay? So the columns are separated using commas, okay? And that's why we say values, comma separated value file, CSV, okay? And in fact, this our very own Canvas LMS system uses CSV files to give us basically data, okay? So okay, so it's a simple yet powerful text file format. Okay, spreadsheet program can open them. A comma basically separate each column. Okay, each row separate the new line character separate each row. Okay, so it's as usual with regular text file. New line character separate each line or row. Okay, all right. So let's write. So let's practice with CSV file using solving a problem. So the problem is this. So we're going to use the same grocery list file. Now we're going to use two columns, item and amount. Okay. So problem is typical grocery list has two columns, the list item and the quantity. Okay. So write a Python function named create grocery list CSV to create a two-column grocery list as a .csv file with headers. So there are two headers, item and quantity for any number of items. Okay, so it's for any number of items. So then basically once we are done with this, we have to generalize this function through basically modifying a function by modifying basically to any number of rows and any number of columns. Okay, all right, so let's check on that. Okay, so I'm going to go back to over here. I'm going to go back to the top. It's where then I'm going to do the understand process. Okay, so the input, okay, it's basically, well, we're going to get the input using the input function in this case. Okay, but basically there should be a file name, right? So file to write. All right, and there will be other input values, the grocery items, right? Items and quantity. Okay, so right, so So let's see what we have to do. So are there any restriction? There's a loose restriction over here. I right for any number of columns. So what does that means? Basically, we shouldn't restrict the number of any number of items. That means number of rows in the CSV file. It's up to the user. Okay, so user decide how many. I mean, it's when we create a grocery list, that's the case, right? So we should facilitate that. So that means this is a hinting that okay, this should be a while loop because the number of rows are not definite. So it's basically depending on user's action, we have to terminate the process. So it's a while loop seems like. Okay. So basically what we have to do is basically we need to obtain this. We should write this two headers, quantity and item and quantity, right? So those are the two headers. Okay, so the item to buy and then the quantity to buy. Okay, so and then basically we need to add rows of items and quantities. Okay, so basically what we have to do is create a file, right? And basically at the start, just item and quantity separated by commas. Okay, okay, and there has to be a new line character at the end. Okay, okay, so something like that. So we need to basically create this string first and then add it, okay, to the file. Okay, so this is basically the things to be written as the first step in writing to this file. See the comma separated. That's why we have to have this comma. It's really important. Okay, so just for two columns, just one comma is there. Okay, so and then basically we need to follow with each item. Okay, so that means basically need a while loop, okay, to get rest of the items, right? Well, not rest of the items, right? All right, so let's quickly write a plan for this. So the match is before that, the match is right. Oops. Any like file operation, okay, for writing, okay. All right, the plan is basically step one, okay. You need to get the file name, okay. So um, input file name, okay. So next one, basically open the file, okay, file for writing, okay. We'll use with for that, okay. So once, and if since basically if you use with basically, I can basically go inside, okay. So this basically become like this 2.1, okay, because we are inside now with, okay. So 2.1 basically write this the header, right? So write this, okay. All right, so next step is basically now we need to ask the question, right? So while, so basically this thing that we write, basically we can give it a name, okay. So write um, a line or something, okay. While, so so how do you make it to a plan? Basically we say okay, while the user still want to add lines, okay. So while um, a line is not empty, okay, you can keep asking to basically input. So this is 2.2, okay. 2.2, and then we are inside now while loop. Okay, so 2.2.1. Okay, and we're going to basically keep asking. Okay, so we're going to keep writing. Okay, so write input items. So basically we need to get the input, right? So why? So input item, item, and quantity. Okay, all right. So that's what we have to. Okay, so once the user enter empty, all right. So it's not empty, right? So when it empty, basically we exit. Okay, that's it. This is um, not a fruitful function. Basically, it's writing into a file, so it doesn't return anything. Okay, so there's nothing to return. Okay, so let's write the implementation of this. Okay, so def. Okay, so let's get the name, create processor.csv. All right, and this we're gonna get the input. Okay, so I already have the name that I use, so I'm gonna go ahead and then CSV file and get that. Okay, I used the same name, but there are two. This is this right here, and that was again down below, two separate things. Okay, I use same names if to to show the correspondence. Okay, so all right, so basically creates the grocery list CSV file. Okay, wow, I forgot how to write grocery. So C. Oh, right here. Whoa, way off. Okay. All right. So, all right. So let's start. Okay. So go to the plan. Okay. So we inputted the file names. We did that. Okay. Open the file for writing. So with open. Okay. The file name. So that is you're gonna get the same file name. Oh, well, I'm gonna give it file name. I think it's given over here. Oh, .csv. So let's say grocery list. Yeah, it's grocery list .csv, not .text. Okay. So .csv. All right. And that's open for writing. Okay. As CSV file or something. Okay. CSV. All right. So all right. So we are inside the file. We open it. Okay. We inside the with statement. We open it. So first we're gonna write. Right. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna write this line. Okay. So I'm going to create this line, that thing that I'm going to write. Okay. So a line equals, so we write text into text file, right? So we need to create that text. Okay. So item, okay, comma, okay, and then quantity. Okay. So item and quantity. Don't forget to add the new line character. All right. So this is the line, and we need to write this first. Okay. So CSV file, that's the file object dot write, and we're gonna pass a line. Okay. All right. So that's it, and then we wrote the header. So let's check on this now. Okay. So I'm gonna run this and at this point and see if it is uh, it works. Okay. So block this, All right. So, oh, I think I passed the CSV file. I think I need to use that over there. Okay, let's go on the top. Um, right here, it should be CSV file. Okay. Um, yeah, this should be that. Okay. So I'm passing the name. Okay, CSV file. So let's see, this is file object. Otherwise, it's not good to have same name. Okay. So right there. Okay. CSV file object. Okay. Okay. All right. So that's good over here. So I'm going to pass the name. See that? I'm going to pass this name. All right. So let's run this one and see what comes out. Okay. All right. It ran. So our file name is just created that one. This is the file name. Okay. All right. See that? The two things are there. So item and quantity. So let's go to our file system and open this file. Okay. And I'm going to show you that it's going to get open as a spreadsheet. Okay. All right. So right here, since so I have the file. So it's a grocery list CSV. You open it. All right. It's working. Okay. Okay. And I have it, item and quantity. So it's in a spreadsheet, right? So any spreadsheet program can open CSV file like that. So the two columns are separated by commas. In the text mode, we saw that the comma is separating them, right? All right. So we verified that. So go back to our work and then we're going to finish things up. Okay. So how do we write the rest? Basically, we need to follow our plan, right? So that means while, okay, so I already have something in this align, right? So while align, so that means this is a non-empty string. So non-empty string is Boolean true. Okay. So basically while align, I can say that align, then I'm going to basically ask what are the two, what is the item and the quantity. Okay. So I'm going to use input. Okay. So I'm gonna make it equals to now. Okay. Input. I'm going to use the prompt. Okay. Please enter the item and the quantity as comma separated. Well, I can say that like separated by commas. Separated by commas. Right? By a comma. Okay. All right. So that's what I'm saying. So basically, so that's the prompt. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, I don't need to ask the user to enter new line also. I can do it from my side, right? So I'm going to add the new line character here. Okay. All right. So I got the line. So now I just need to write that line, right? So it's over here. So copy paste that over here. Okay. That's it. Okay. So it's going to keep asking. So at the moment I enter nothing, it's going to break the loop. So let's try this one out. Okay. All right. So rerunning. Okay. All right. So ask the question. Okay. So I'm going to say bananas and like say 10. I'm going to hit I'm going to ask again the next item. Okay, apples 5. Okay, so what else? Grapes 2 pounds. Okay, and I'm going to hit just that, and it's not working. So let's see what is going on. Okay, so we need to basically check on that. But if you check here, something is not right. Let's see. Maybe because no, that's not. Okay, let me reopen. All right. So something is not right. It's not. Okay. Let me reopen. Okay, it's got all written somewhere somehow. Okay, see. Um. Okay. All right. Right. Align. Okay. Oh, I think this is where it got. That's why it became an infinite loop. Okay. So, all right. So let's basically we need to write a line. So it's basically yeah. So well, let's run it like this. See what comes out. I'm gonna stop this and rerun. Okay. All right. So bananas and 10 apples 5. All right. So still not. Okay. So what's going on? Mhm. Yeah, so let me end this. Okay. Oh, hmm. Yeah, still, okay. It's still an infinite loop. Okay. So the thing is because, yeah. All right. So I know, okay. The reason is basically this. Um, yeah. So, yeah, it became an infinite loop because see this, no matter what I add the a new line character at the end, so that means this is never going to be an empty line. Okay, so to solve that, um, so we can basically say, well, yeah, so we can actually um, do this while if there's nothing in front. Okay, so while this is not okay, while this is not equals just empty line. That's what I'm going to ask. Okay. All right. So this way basically, oops. Okay. So if the user enters nothing, then basically, excuse me, there's only one this new line character only, right? So that means basically the loop fails. Okay. All right. So let's try now. Okay. All right. So it's asking the question. Okay. So I'm going to enter, well, I'm going to add kind of add like this and a space. Okay. Rerun. Okay. All right. So let's add, okay. Bananas. Okay. Okay. And 10 apples 5, oranges 8, grapes 2 pounds, and that's it. Loop exited. Okay, so let's check. Here you go. Okay, so we still have a problem, right? So this item and quantity, the header got overwritten 2 times. So if you go there and then open it again, okay, and you can see that there are 2 headers now. Okay, so we need to avoid that. Okay, so that's part of the review, right? So let's fix that. And to fix that, basically, see that I'm writing it over here. Okay, so I need to basically move this line to the end. All right, so there you go. Okay, so that way, once I reassign this to the first set of values, I'm going to basically write it. Okay, so copy that and then run it again. Okay, we'll yeah basically fixing it. Okay, all right, apples 5, grapes 2 pound. That's it. I'm going to stop there. And here's the file. It's one header and the rest. Okay. And if you open it over here, okay, and you'll see that it is oh, it's right here. Oh, I have to close this. That's why it's not working. I forgot to close previous one. Okay. So all right. So we have the grocery list, the item, quantity, bananas, apples, grapes. Oops. Wow. I got the grapes spelling wrong. Okay, that's fine. Okay. It's not an English class. All right. So that's it. So this is how you write into a comma separated value file. So now we're going to generalize this file, this function, sorry, into a any number of columns. So this is not going to be grocery list, just you know any CSV file. Okay, so create CSV file. Okay, all right. So now, so it's saying that okay, any number of columns and any number of rows. So any number of rows taken care of over here. Okay, so how do we write for any number of columns? Basically, we need to ask from the user, okay, how many columns do you have to have in this CSV file? Okay, and then basically you need to ask, okay, so enter items for that many columns. Okay, so basically I would say over here instead of this line, so basically we're gonna ask, okay, number of lines. Okay, of lines equals, okay, so basically we need to ask input how many columns. All right, so then basically we get that. Okay, and then we need to get each header, right? So for that we need to run a for loop for each header. Okay, in, well, for it should be a number, right? For numbers in range number of lines, well, it should be number of columns, sorry, right? Number of columns. Okay, number of columns. Okay, So and basically we're going to collect the header, and as we collect, we are going to create that first line. So I'm going to first line equals, it's empty string first, sorry, empty string first. But as I loop over number of columns, I'm going to collect it and then write it. So basically first line plus equals input. Okay. All right. Enter the column name. Okay. So, and what's going to happen is basically we need to basically create a single line with each column name, and basically I need to add the comma also. Okay. Comma and a space. Okay. All right. All right. So let's, now we got the and then at the end, well, new line too. Okay. All right. Okay. So we have the first row basically. Now in here, okay. So now this is not that, so we don't need that. So we're gonna add the first line. That's the first line. Okay. So then while, so now we have to collect as many number of rows as user want. Okay. So basically we say please enter the each column. Okay. So we have to prompt the user, right? Otherwise it's kind of confusing. Each column separated by each item, sorry, each item separated by comma. Okay. All right. So there you go. Okay. So let's try it now. So then we're gonna write, yeah. So this is a different function. So yeah, we'll pass a different file object. Okay. So we're gonna CSV file 2, and that's going to be sample CSV or something. All right. Okay, so let's run. So this is this one. All right. So call file 2. Make sure change that. All right. So run it again. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna run it. I'm gonna stop it because we don't need to run this one. Okay. All right. So run it again. All right. So how many columns? I'm gonna go for, say, 4. Oops, that's not okay. Let's see what it is. Okay, string object. So this read string object cannot be interpreted as an integer. So I'm doing something illegal here. All right. So plus, okay, input string. This is the pass equal. All right. So I'm trying to concatenate number of columns. Okay, let's see. Oh, I didn't put int. Okay, that's why. Int. See, input is string, right? So range expect an integer number. So I need to convert it to integer. That's the mistake I did. Okay, so let's run it again. All right, so it's now asking how many columns? 4. Okay, enter the column name. So First column name, let's say COL1. I'm going to be picking like general names like that. COL2, COL3, column 4. That should be it. Okay. So there's another error. So let's say a line. Okay. I think this is right here. Oh, it should be first line. Ah. Yeah, so it's a mistake here. So yeah, so let's say this should be, oh, that's fine. This should be the first line, and it should be the first line. Okay. I'm gonna change. Otherwise, this is kind of, say, change it a line. Okay. Otherwise, it's misleading. Okay. All right. So then I can use it like right here. All right. So it's good. All right. So run it again. All right. 4 columns. 1, 2, 3. All right. So we are done with collecting the header. Okay. So the values, right? So I'm going to enter like comma separated values. 1, comma 2, comma 3, comma 4. And I enter. It asks the next set. Okay. So let's go for 10, 20, 30, 40. All right. So next set. Okay. 100, 200, 300, 400. And that's it. Okay. So I just hit enter key. So it's nothing. That means it only had this. So loop ended. Okay. So let's check the file that we created. It's a sample CSV. This is the one. There you go. Oh, we made a mistake. Okay. So this review process goes on. So this need to be go in a single line, right? But other than that, everything is correct. So it's correct for that. So the reason is we actually over here in creating that, we didn't need to add this new line. So that was the mistake we did. Okay. Comma. Well, yeah, we need the comma. Okay. So let's write again. Okay. So 4. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now the values 1, comma 2, comma 3, comma 4. Enter. 1, comma, well, different values. 5, comma 8, comma 9, 10, 20, 30, 40. That's it. I'm done. Let's check the values. There you have it. So still not done. Okay, so that's fine. So we're gonna go back, and so for the first line, we need to, at the end, once we are done with this, we need to add the new line. That's what's the mistake, right? Okay, so a line, we need to add the again plus equal new line. Okay, so we need to add that. All right, so this should fix it. So this is the case, right? So I am pretty much running this program brand new, so this is gonna happen. Okay, so you're gonna have several iterations until you get the correct value. Okay, so run it again. So this time I'm expecting to get it correctly. Okay, so I'm gonna had enough. Put 3 columns: COL1, COL2, COL3. Okay, so it's now asking to separate by comma. So the values 1, 2, 3. Whoops, that's it. 10, 20, 30. 100, 200, 300. That's it. Done. So let's open the file. There you go. All right. So we are done. Okay. So let's open this file in file system. Okay. Sample CSV. There, this one. Okay. All right. Here we have it. Column 1, column 2, column 3, 1, 2, 3, and then the file that we created. Okay. All right, guys. So there you have it. How to write a comma separated value file using Python. Okay. So in our next lesson, we're going to learn about binary files reading and writing, and we'll do some examples as well.